Roots are growing pretty fast on this tomato. So we'll check back in a couple days and probably be ready to plant it out. Welcome to the garden. Today I'm going to be removing my test tomato. This is something that I planted out early in spring to see if the temperatures were warm enough. They definitely weren't, because this is very stunted. It should be twice this size. So I'm just going to pull this out. I've got plenty more, so I'm not worried about losing a couple different tomatoes. I was going to plant out this one, but it snapped off right at the stem. And to my surprise, it actually didn't grow back at the root, but the cutting, that was basically the entire tomato, set down roots. I had this in water for 2 or 3 weeks, and I think it's got enough root now to where it can support itself out in the garden. So we'll start by digging a nice deep hole. I do need to avoid my little beets. I really like to plant my tomatoes extra deep. That way they grow roots all along the stem, really helps support a strong plant, and they stay nice and deep to get cool moisture in the heat of summer. Soil's usually nice and dark and moist down there and cool to the touch. So in the heat of the summer, that really helps your tomatoes. So we'll take our little cutting. Look at those roots, that's beautiful. I'm just going to slip it all the way down to the very bottom. Not compacting those roots yet, we're just lightly covering them with soil. So it's really actually quite deep. Now I'm just going to water in with the water it was rooting in, and that'll help settle everything. You can maybe shore up the stem a little bit if you're worried about it blowing around, and you can actually start staking it at any time, even when they're real young like this. We might actually do that because it's leaning a little bit, although just having it out in the sun will help it kind of lean back this way. It was in a real shady spot so it wouldn't dry out, so now giving it full sun it'll thicken up a little bit. It won't be quite so leggy, and we'll get really nice hardy growth. So already it's looking much better than this little test tomato. I'm planting a cherry tomato in this container, and we've already got some lettuce growing around the outside, so I just cut a little hole, and I'm testing the height right now. If we look down here, we can see that it was contacting on this side. So I'm going to get in here and remove a little bit of that soil from this corner so we can get it nice and deep. We really want to bury that stem and get those roots down deep so they're nice and cool. Looks like we've got a rock down there. That's not doing anybody any good. So we'll get that out. So we basically reached the bottom. I like to do sticks and leaves down at the bottom, and I just hit a stick right here. Try and get them straight, get them centered. Then we can start pruning. Anything that's below the soil has got to go. And I do like to trim a few inches above the soil also. The plant's going to be just fine. Can grow plenty of new leaves from the top. And that's where we really want it anyways. Get them nice and tall. They can focus on growing roots down here. And I'm even going to take this one because it's kind of brushing that soil. This is the first tomato I'm going to put in the ground. I like to use this little bed. I've got a few perennials like these chives and this oregano. So I like to use those as a sort of ground cover. So we want a bigger hole than we actually need. So that looks pretty good. I'll do a couple scoops of compost and just work that in. Work it in all around. Try and mix it in with that native soil. That way the roots are more likely to spread out rather than staying right where the nutrients are in that compost. So we definitely have too much soil here. I'll just take about a handful out. And I'm not going to bury this one quite as deep as I did the other ones. So we'll bury this right up to soil level. You could even leave a little bit of a depression there for watering. You can fill up that depression like a little moat and really make sure that the water's all going to your tomato instead of running off. We're going to prune back some of these lower leaves. These are already getting hit with that blight anyways, so they really should go. Then we're going to really heavily mulch with all these dry leaves. That'll keep down that blight even more, so we don't get splash back next time it rains. And we just need to water this guy in really well. And then we'll stake it up. Then we're going to cage this up. And I'm going to use a new method this year that I wanted to try last year but never got around to trying. Now we're going to cage this up, and we can actually run string in between these two really strong cages and plant more tomatoes or peppers right in the center. Then they can be supported by those strings without having too many stakes. These are incredibly sturdy cages. They'll be able to support these two plants and anything in between as well. They really look great now that they're mulched. I've made sure that those lettuces can poke through. So we've still got a beautiful ring of these red lettuce and one little green one down here. But then this cherry tomato is going to fill in pretty quick. So we'll get another frame around it, keep it nice and well watered. We want to watch it for the first couple days to make sure it doesn't get too much sun. But these were grown in a greenhouse with excellent light. So they're really probably going to do fine. They've actually kind of acclimated in the greenhouse. We're clear of any cold nights. So it's about time to get them out in the garden. So I hope you all give this a go. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.